Hey YouTube! Welcome back to The New Mechanic. My name's Randy and this is my E46. Today we're going to change up things and work on the oil filter housing gasket rather than the CCV system. Alright, so I noticed that there was a lot of oil coming out of the front side of the engine. I was a little bit worried because I don't know what part it's actually called, but the opposite of the rear main seal, which I guess would be called the front main seal, maybe the crank seal, I'm not sure. But I thought that was leaking, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's actually this oil filter housing gasket that's leaking oil because it's running down the front of the engine and you can see all the dirt in there. So we're gonna go ahead and work on that. And I figured we'd do that before we get to the CCV system, because it's possible that we'll get halfway through this, find out that we have really good access to the CCV system once all this stuff is off, and maybe we'll start working on the CCV. So I don't know how this video is going to go, but let's go ahead and get started on the oil filter housing gasket. Okay, so this right here is your oil filter cap, and this metal thing here is the oil filter housing. The problem is that it's actually a rather large block that connects to the engine block, and it supports some other things like these bearings down here, the pulleys. I believe the alternator bracket connects to it. So we're gonna have to go ahead and remove the power steering pump, which definitely connects to it, as you can see there. And we'll just basically move this off to the side. We're also gonna remove the alternator. We're gonna remove the tensioner pulley. And then from there, I think we'll be able to access the 6 bolts that point out to the side and get it pulled off. We'll be able to clean stuff up and get a new gasket in there. All right, the first thing we're gonna work on is the alternator. I'm gonna take off the pulley, which goes through the alternator bracket, disconnect all the electrical inputs and everything to the alternator, and then take out all the bolts from the alternator. So I'm gonna do that first now. Oh boy. There's the alternator. All right, the next is the power steered reservoir tank. So we gotta go ahead and move this and just get it out of the way. All right, so from here, there are 6 bolts that go into the oil filter housing. Make sure to remember which order they are. So I'm gonna do them in a pattern. And then this should all just come free. There's also a banjo bolt, I think, and I think there's also an electrical connection. So I'm really just going at it. I don't really know what I'm doing, but we'll see. Also, the power steering reservoir tank, it is really cruddy, which makes me wonder if it's leaking, not this gasket. But we're gonna replace this gasket because it's not really that hard. And if it continues, then we'll go ahead and replace this tank or tubing, or I'm not even sure what we're going to replace here, but we'll try to figure it out if we get to that point. Alright, so we got all the bolts off, moving to the truth. Oh, just kidding, we got to get the banjo bolt off. You also have to disconnect the power steering pump from it. Alright, so this is the oil filter housing. This little black thing right here that you can see here, that's the gasket. So I'm gonna go ahead and peel that out, put the new one in. I'm also gonna clean up all this crap that's all around here. Get this nice and somewhat clean anyways, and get it back on the car. Alright, so there is the old gasket. Doesn't feel that bad, but it was leaking, so it needed replaced. oil filter housing back on. Next up, we got the power steering reservoir tank to put back on. After that, we'll go ahead and get the alternator back on, along with the power steering pump. And then we should basically be good for this project, and then we'll get to the CCV after that. So we finally got the oil filter housing gasket back into the car. That's awesome. Hopefully it doesn't leak, but we'll find out once we eventually start the car. The next thing that we're gonna work on is the CCV system. That's why I went ahead and left the alternator back out of the car. I think it'll give me a little bit better access to the CCV system if it's out of the car. But I think this is where we're gonna stop it today. I still have to do some research on the CCV system and exactly how to access everything. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And go ahead and like and subscribe if you liked it. Subscribe if you really liked it as well. That'd be awesome. Share it with your friends. That'd be great. But this is where we're gonna stop it, and I'll catch you next time.